Have you ever had a moment where years of regret, guilt, and anger finally collapse into one perfect second of justice? Because the day I ran into my friend's high school bully at a quiet coffee shop, I had no idea I was seconds away from delivering the kind of verbal knockout punch that 15 years of shame had kept buried inside me. One moment she walked in with her usual arrogance, and the next, the entire cafe went silent as I finally said the words I should have said back in high school. Before we dive in, if you've ever wished you could go back in time and stand up for someone or for yourself, then hit that like button. Subscribe for more real revenge stories that hit straight in the chest and settle in, because this one is justice served piping hot. I still remember the hallways of my high school, the squeak of sneakers on polished floors, the distant buzz of vending machines, and that cold slice of dread that hit every time I saw Melissa Pierce turn a corner. If you've ever seen someone who carried their cruelty like it was a fashion accessory, then you know exactly who she was. She wasn't the loud, chaotic bully who shoved people into lockers for fun. No, she was worse. She specialized in precision, targeted comments, casual humiliation, little verbal blades meant to slice at the softest parts of a person's confidence. And the person she loved to aim those blades at was my friend Emily. Emily and I had grown up in the same neighborhood. She lived 2 streets down from me. We weren't inseparable, but she was the person who always shared her notes, her snacks, her umbrella when it rained. Kindness came naturally to her, like breathing. Unfortunately, in our high school ecosystem, that made her visible in all the wrong ways. Melissa spotted her early freshman year, and from that point on, Emily was her favorite target. I would see it happen from a distance. I'd see Emily tense her shoulders whenever Melissa walked by. I'd see her shove her hands deep in her hoodie pockets, pulling them tight like she was trying to shrink her body into invisible dimensions. And Melissa, she didn't even need an audience. Most of the time, she'd walk up, smile sweetly, and say something that stung long after she walked away. Did you cut your hair yourself? Yeah, it looks like it. Wow, that's the bag you're using? Brave choice. You're so forgettable. I literally walked past you and didn't see you there. Little comments, micro bruises, quiet attacks. Nothing big enough to be reported. Nothing big enough to cause an explosion, but definitely big enough to slowly erode someone's self-worth. And every time I watched and said nothing. And that still sits with me, like a stone lodged in my ribs. Because back then I wasn't scared of Melissa. Not really. I was scared of making things worse. Scared of becoming the next target. Scared of saying the wrong thing. Scared, period. So I stayed silent. And silence. Sometimes that's the loudest betrayal of all. Emily and I stayed friends after graduation. But we never talked about Melissa much. It was like discussing old injuries. You know they happened, but you don't poke the scar unless you have to. Years went by. Life rolled forward. We both ended up in decent jobs. Adulting happened. And honestly, I thought Melissa was one of those people who would remain forever trapped in the dusty file cabinet of my high school memories. Until that one afternoon, it was a Saturday, the kind of quiet weekend afternoon where the sun is soft. The air feels calmer, and everything moves slower than usual. Emily and I decided to catch up at this little café downtown, in one of those cozy places with mismatched chairs, wooden counters, and the faint smell of roasted beans lingering in the air. The barista knew us by now. He waved as we walked in, and we slid into our usual booth by the window. Emily looked good, older, more confident, but still carrying that softness that always made her easy to be around. We talked about work, about life, about all the small things people talk about when they're comfortable. I remember laughing at something she said. Something about her boss being obsessed with corporate jargon, when I noticed her eyes shift toward the door. It was a tiny change, but I recognized it instantly. Her shoulders stiffened. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers curled slightly around her coffee mug. I followed her gaze, and there she was. Melissa Pierce, looking exactly the same, but also somehow worse. She walked in with that same aura of entitlement, like the air parted around her. Same smirk, same calculated self-importance, same energy of someone who believed the world owed her attention. And the moment her eyes landed on Emily, I felt something electric stir inside me. A flash, a twitch, a memory of every moment I watched Melissa chip away at Emily's self-esteem. Melissa's lips curled into that familiar condescending smile as she stepped closer to our table. She didn't ask if she could interrupt, she just did. Well, she said, her voice loud enough that half the cafe glanced over. If it isn't little Emily, you still look the same. Always so plain. She dragged her eyes up and down Emily like she was evaluating a clearance rack item. Emily shrank just slightly. It was subtle, but I saw it. And that That is the moment something inside me snapped. Years of guilt, regret, and stored anger boiled at once. My heartbeat kicked up. My hands tingled. My tongue felt electric, almost eager. And before I even realized I was speaking, the words flew out. "Yeah, she looks the same," I said calmly. "Stable job. Good life, no issues. What about you? Still starting drama for fun?" The entire cafe went still, dead still. Melissa blinked once, twice, clearly not expecting pushback. She gave this awkward laugh, the kind people do when they're trying too hard to pretend they're not embarrassed. "You're being sensitive," she snapped. "Sensitive?" I leaned forward. "If you're still picking on people as an adult, that's not confidence. That's just sad. Anyway, we're enjoying our coffee. You can go." My voice didn't rise, but it hit harder than if I'd shouted. Melissa froze. For a split second I saw it, that crack in her armor. The confusion, the discomfort, the realization that no one was buying her act anymore. And then she walked out. No comeback, no snarky remark, just a silent, defeated exit out the door. The most satisfying exit I have ever witnessed. When the door closed behind her, the cafe slowly returned to its normal hum. Conversations resumed. The barista raised his eyebrows, impressed. But Emily, she just sat there for a moment, staring at the table. Then she looked at me, quietly, almost shyly, and said, "Thank you." I wish someone said something back then. Her voice cracked a little, and I felt my chest tighten. "Yeah," I said softly. "I wish I did too. I really do. But at least, finally, I did now." The thing about closure is that people assume it happens in big, dramatic moments. Tearful apologies, huge confrontations, tables flipping, all of that. But sometimes closure is quiet, simple. A single sentence said in the right moment, undoing a decade of regret. That day stayed on my mind long after we finished our coffee. Not because of Melissa. She walked out of that cafe like a deflated balloon, and honestly, I hope she's still processing what happened. But because of Emily. After she thanked me, I noticed something shift in her. Her shoulders relaxed. Her eyes softened. It was like watching someone unclench a part of themselves they didn't even realize had been tight for years. And I couldn't help thinking, what if I had done this back then? How different would things have been for her? And for me? But regret doesn't solve anything. Action does. That night, I found myself lying awake, replaying high school moments in my mind. I remembered all the times I saw Melissa corner Emily in the hallway, all the moments I heard her snide remarks, all the moments I wanted to speak up, but didn't. I remembered the shame that followed me for years. The guilt, the internal voice that whispered, "You should have done more." That one moment at the cafe didn't erase everything, but it healed something. And the best part? Emily felt it too. The next week, she texted me. "Hey, I've been thinking about what you said to Melissa," she wrote. "No one ever put her in her place before. I wish she heard something like that earlier, but I'm glad she heard it now." For the next few weeks, something interesting happened. Emily became lighter, more confident, more outspoken, more present. We'd hang out and she'd laugh louder, tell stories with her hands, speak her mind more openly. She didn't shrink at confrontation anymore. It was like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to prove that she deserved to be defended. A few months passed and our lives continued normally until fate decided to be messy. Because destiny absolutely has a sense of humor. One morning, while grabbing coffee before work, I spotted Melissa again, but this time, she wasn't strutting around with her usual superiority. She looked stressed. Her clothes were rumpled. She moved quickly, almost frantically. Her face had that pinched look of someone who had too many problems and not enough solutions. She didn't see me, and I didn't approach her. Watching her scramble around, snapping at a barista, complaining loudly about something, I realized something. Her entire personality was fueled by insecurity. Because confident people don't try to make others feel small. Only insecure people do that. And the moment someone finally pushes back, their whole facade cracks. Melissa wasn't the queen of anything. She never had been. She was just a scared person who built a personality out of tearing others down. And now, she wasn't tearing anyone down, which meant she had nothing to hide behind. As I watched her storm out of the cafe, complaining about her life, her job, her co-workers, it became clear. Life had already handled her for us. Sometimes karma doesn't need our help. Sometimes it just waits patiently for its turn. Later that evening, I told Emily I saw her. Emily laughed, not in a mean way, but in a relieved way. "Honestly," she said, "I don't care about her anymore. She can stay in the past." Then she paused. "But I'll always remember what you said to her." I think that was the moment I finally let it all go. And hearing that, it hit me harder than the confrontation itself. Because standing up for her that day didn't just humiliate Melissa. It helped Emily reclaim a part of herself she lost in high school, a part of herself she thought she'd never get back. And I realized something important. Revenge isn't always about making the bad person suffer. Sometimes revenge is about healing the person they hurt. Sure, watching Melissa's ego crumble was satisfying. I'm not denying that. But the real victory wasn't hers. It was Emily's. Because the moment I spoke up, years of quiet pain finally broke, and Emily walked away lighter. As for Melissa, I haven't seen her since. Maybe the universe genuinely is keeping our paths from crossing again. Because, yeah, if she tried anything now, someone would absolutely get cooked. But I also think maybe she knows better now. Maybe that cafe incident was the first time someone held up a mirror to her behavior, and she didn't like what she saw. Maybe she needed that moment. And maybe, just maybe, that silence she walked away with was the sound of her realizing she couldn't bully her way through adulthood. Either way, I'm good. Emily's good. And justice? Justice was served in its own perfect, quiet, devastating way. The real climax wasn't her walking out. It was the silence afterward. That stunned, heavy silence where everyone in the cafe realized exactly who she was and who she wasn't anymore. It was the moment her ego finally collapsed under the weight of her own behavior. No comeback, no attitude. Just her walking away defeated, exposed, and painfully aware that she couldn't hide behind her old high school persona anymore. Looking back, I wish I had spoken up earlier. But sometimes life gives you the chance to deliver justice when the timing is finally right. And when that moment comes, take it. If this story hit home, hit that like button and tell us in the comments, have you ever had a moment where karma finally caught up to someone? And of course, subscribe for more real-life revenge stories that prove justice always finds a way.